Hey, hello everybody. How you doing? This is Gus Tucker. Welcome to Financial Freedom Fridays. Financial Freedom Fridays. And we're excited to have you here today. We are now in the portion of putting together your plan where it's really about the work and the discipline of putting your plan together. The thing about developing wealth is anybody can do it, but not everybody will do it. Why? Because it's going to take some discipline, some change in habits um, that not everybody's willing to do. So we're going to review shortly some of the things that we went through last week, and then we're going to continue looking at the details of what it is you need to do to put your plan together, okay? So what I would like is participation, because the more you interact with me through the chat and leaving messages on the Facebook group for Financial Freedom Fridays with your questions, the more we can answer them in shows coming up. And the more you're engaged, the better it will be. So in one sense, the show will be as good as you make it. Okay? The show will be as good as you make it. So we're going to share this presentation and go ahead and get down the road. So we've talked about financial independence, and it's the state of having sufficient personal wealth to live without having to work actively for basic necessities. And as we talked about, man, not enough people reach this point in their lifetime. Not enough people. We want to increase that number of folks that actually do that. And one of the ways to do that is increase your literacy. And the more we feel comfortable about talking about something, and we learn the vocabulary of something, and we can get the concepts in our head, the easier it's going to be to actually put them into practice. So take the financial literacy challenge. Your score doesn't matter. But taking the initiative to take the quiz begins a new habit. It's called being coachable. And a friend of mine once told me, Gus, who's the person responsible for the mess you're in, Gus? Well, it was Gus. He said, well, how long are you going to take that guy's advice? If he got you into this mess, he probably won't be the one that gets you out. You need to start listening to some other voices. Voices from podcasts, or at that time it used to be cassette tapes we would listen to, or DVDs we would listen to. Now it's podcasts, streamed events, it's reading books, it's Audible, it's going to seminars, it's getting that information in and changing how you think. Get the financial freedom checklist, request it, ask for it, because that'll give you a checklist of things that you want to have complete within your plan so you can make it happen. No one becomes financially independent by accident. I was looking at something the other day. There are about 2,800 billionaires. There are about 2,800 billionaires in the world. And if you look at people of color, specifically Black people and African American people, in the United States, we're 13% of the population. When you include Africa and other places, that takes us over 25% of the population of the world. Okay, so if 2,800 people, and hello from Austin, Texas, if 2,800 people are billionaires, about 700 of them ought to be Black. Well, guess how many were Black? 15. We got some catching up to do. The same principles we're going to talk about here are the same principles that are applied just in scale by people who are billionaires. They do the same principles, but just on a larger scale. How do you get to lift heavier and heavier weights? or get to a larger scale, you got to start where you're at. So get the book, How Money Works, study it, learn the principles. Now, we talked about there's 3 places you can be in your financial life where your cash flow is greater than your expenses, your cash flow is equal to your expenses, or your cash flow is less than your expenses. Now, here's the legal part of the conversation. I am not giving you advice. These are some educational tips, educational concepts to help you think about your situation. You need to meet either one of our professionals or meet one-on-one with a financial professional to put a plan together. Okay? So scenario number 1. This is for people whose cash flow is greater than their expenses. And we talked about 1, if you're getting a tax refund. Number 2, are you on track for retirement? Number 3, do you have enough in the right kind of life insurance? And then college funding. So we talked about going to smartasset.com/taxes/ whatever your check is, and figuring out what you should change in your W-9 so that you get as close to zero as possible. That will increase the cash flow in your check week to week, or every 2 weeks, or every month. And then you can take that money over the next 12 months, invest it, and get a return versus getting no return on the government keeping your money. Does that make sense? Somebody put in the chat, yeah, that makes sense. I get it. I understand. Somebody let me know. I say, let me know you're with me. Okay. The next thing is, are you on track for retirement? Okay, retirement doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stop working, but it does mean you're going to stop working for money. I looked at the top 15 richest Black people in the world, and all of them are still working, and they're all over $1 billion. The wealthiest guy is about $15 billion. Right now, he's building one of the largest fertilizer plants in the world. Very timely, because Russia is one of the biggest fertilizer producers in the world, and they're not supplying the world right now. So this guy's stepping in and going to take advantage of that opportunity. He's also building an oil refinery. So he's still working, and he's worth $15 billion. But he's not working for money. He's working to make his home country a better place, Nigeria, to employ people and to make the world a better place. Same thing you want to do. You want to take care of your family, and then after that, be able to give back and help other people. So let's get your retirement out the way as soon as possible. What's retirement mean? You're not going to work for money anymore. You're going to have money coming in from other places. Where? Social Security. When and how much? Your pension, annuity, real estate investments. And then you're going to use the rule of 72, which says if I take an interest rate divided into 72, tells me how many years it takes for my money to double. I'm going to use that concept to look out in the future and see how much money I need, what's going to be my target return, and then reverse engineer back to a number that I need to be saving all the time. Do you feel me on that? Okay, I'm gonna say that one more time. So let's just say that you want to retire on $60,000 a year. Divide that through by 0.05. 0.05. And if you do that, you'll come up with $1.2 million. So at whatever age you want to start getting $60,000 a year, you're going to need $1.2 million, where you can take 5% of it every year out and live on it. And your returns need to be higher than 5% so you don't eat the principal up of your money. So if you reverse engineer back to your current age, let's say you're going to get 9% return. That means every 8 years it's going to double. If you go from 65, 8 years back, how many doubles until you get to your current age? So if you're 60, if you want to retire at 65 and you go back to 57, you need to have $600,000 at 57. If you go back 8 more years to 49, you need to have 300,000 at 49. And go back to 41, you need to have 150,000. And then we'll use another calculator to say, okay, how much do we need to be putting away? If I got 150,000 now, that doubles every 8 years. How much do I need to put away every month until then? And we can help you figure that out. So when you add up your investments, the money from the businesses you own, the real estate you own, the pensions and annuity you own, and Social Security you own that you're going to get, then we'll have your retirement number. Okay? Now this one's out of order. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Let me see if we can get this back on track. We're out of order a little bit. Okay, don't worry about it. We'll fix it. We'll fix it. College funding. Let's say you've got a child you want to put into college. You need to determine first what college are they going to go to? What college are they going to go to? And then what's the cost of attendance? And if it's down the road, you got to use 6%, which is a good number for the increase in the cost of college, to figure out how much it's going to be. So I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and we're in Chicago, and he's going to go to the University of Illinois. And so that being the case, how much does it cost to go to the University of Illinois? My daughter went there too. They're going to go there for 4 years. Let's just say, for purpose of this time together, it's going to be $30,000 a year. Times 4 years, that's $120,000. Well, how much are you going to pay? Let's say you're going to pay half. That's $60,000. Now the question is, how many years do you have to save that $60,000? If it's 1 year, you need $60,000 right away. If it's 10 years, you got more of an on-ramp to do that. So what you're going to do is determine what college you want your child to go to, or college is, figure out the number of years away it is. Now, hopefully, we're talking to you when your child's 5 or 6 years old, and you've got 10 or 12 years to save. Okay? Then use the expense calculator to figure out how much you need to be saving every year at what interest rate to hit your number. Then you're going to sit down with your financial professional, and then you've got to choose a solution, a strategy to do that. You could do that in any number of different investment strategies, okay? A 529 plan, an IRA, permanent life insurance. You're going to look at different alternatives. They all have pluses and minuses, and you're going to figure out which one you're going to use. But you're going to get started right away, right? So if your income is more than your expenses, and you've got people that need to be going to college, we need to start setting that money away for them right now. Okay. The thing I wanted to pick up on, see if we can get to it. If I can find the slides in here. Yeah, here we come. Got a little bit out of order. One of the things that can screw up your plan for financial independence, as we talked about, is dying or almost dying. Life insurance is the foundation of your financial plan. And we talked last time, go watch the video, how to determine the amount of insurance using something called DIME. You can watch last week's show and you can get that. Once you figure out that, then you want to figure out how much. Once you got how much, you need to figure out what kind of insurance. And there's two kinds of insurance. There's term, which is temporary, and then cash value, which is permanent. Neither is best. They just accomplish different goals, okay? So I'm going to look at this. I'm going to make this, so I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, okay? There's two kinds of insurance. I'm going to go to the next slide, actually. And there's term insurance. And you see that it's like renting a home. If you rent a home, if you stay there 10 years and then you move out, how much of that apartment do you own? None of it. You may get a security deposit back, but that's about it. Term life insurance works the same way. You pay for the service. And what's the service? We're going to cover you with a certain amount of life insurance over the period of the term. The term could be anywhere from 5 years, depending on the policy, 30. Some policies go up to 40 years. But at the end of that term, the policy's over and you don't get any money back. You invested that money for the coverage. Okay? You didn't pass away. Now, what are the good things about term insurance? It's very affordable. Typically, you can get lots of insurance for a lot less than you think. They've done surveys where people think insurance is 3 or 4 times more expensive than it really is. The thing you need to do is get with a professional and get a good quote from several companies. And I personally work with over 60 companies that can provide term life insurance. So we find the best company for our clients. Usually, the programs that we choose, the premiums are fixed for the whole term. That's a way of locking in your expenses. Because hopefully over time, your income is going up and the insurance becomes less and less and less a cost of your plan. The other thing you want to look for today, it's a relatively new concept, but it's a life changer. It's called living benefits. Basically, you can get a check from the life insurance company without dying. And we're going to go through this in a little bit, how you can have a critical or chronic illness and still get cash out of the policy. And it's not really out of the policy, it's an acceleration of the death benefit, but you don't have to die to get it. What are the cons to term insurance? There's no cash value. The coverage isn't for life. Some of the things you want life insurance to do for you will last longer than 30 to 40 years. They'll last your entire life. Like leaving an estate for your family will last for as long as you do. Then you want to leave something for them after you're gone. That's not something typically term insurance can do because you'll outlive it. You want to leave some money for your spouse. My wife and I have been married for over 30 years. We could be married for another 20 years. If I would have got a term policy back when we got married, it would already be expired right now. And we got 20 more years to be together, potentially. And I'd still want to take care of her if something happened. So some things you need term insurance for, where you can get a lot of coverage, it's cheap, and it does the job. Then there's things called permanent insurance. There's 4 basic types of permanent insurance. Most people I talk to, they know of the one kind, and it's the oldest. It's called whole life. It's the oldest. And one of the reasons it's called whole life is that you'll pay for it your entire life. Now, with permanent insurance, here's how it works. If you look at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, it says permanent life insurance has basically 2 parts. One part is the cost of insurance. You have to pay to have the insurance and all the costs that go with it. Okay? Pay for the death benefit. You're going to pay some taxes to your state because every time you pay the insurance, that's a sale and there's a sales tax on it. Yep. Your insurance premium is taxed. There's a cost for the insurance company to just operate itself, and there's a cost for them to provide the insurance. So part of your money will go to that. And then part of it goes into a savings account. Okay, now this is an example, and I'm not saying your policy would work this way. You'd have to get a quote and look at it. But this says if you had $100 in monthly premium, $40 went to the insurance and $60 went into savings every month. One of the benefits of a permanent insurance policy is that you save money every month. No matter what, it's a forced savings program. Now, what's the difference between whole life? The next kind of policy is called universal life. Then there's a policy called index universal life. And then there's one listed, not listed here, that's called variable universal life. And variable universal life actually has stock market investments inside the policy. Okay, and we'll talk about why you might do that in a couple of minutes. But whole life, the typical returns, the best returns I've seen on it have been 6%, but they're typically in the 3 to 5% range. Universal life is typically about the same, but with one difference. If you set them up correctly, you don't have to pay for them your entire life. You can plan the payments in such a way as potentially you could end that payment early. We usually target around the time you retire, so that you retire, and by that time the insurance policy is paying for itself. Index universal life, it got its name from the concept of an index. That savings account inside your policy, the performance of it is tied to an index, like the S&P 500 index. My clients from last year, many of them made 15% on their money inside the policy because it was tied to the S&P 500 index. And if you look at how it did during 2021, it did very well. Now, the market's been having some trouble here lately, but the cool part about the index universal life, the average, it typically averages somewhere north of 8%, 8 to 12%. The interest paid is linked to a stock market index like the S&P 500. Your money is not invested in the stock market. Its performance just mirrors the index that the life insurance company has chose to model your returns after. And typically they're usually from a minimum of 0%. Now here's the thing about it. In an index universal life policy, you can't lose money as a result of the market. Because when the market goes negative, depending on the company, you'll get from 0 to 1% put in your policy. But when the market goes up, you'll get up to what the cap is on the policy. Typically, those caps are anywhere from 12 to 15%. So what if you could get returns that were pretty close to the market, but you never had a chance to lose money? The index universal life is a place to begin thinking about how you might do that. Now, here's an example at the bottom. Like in 2008, the S&P 500 index went down 38%. If your money was inside this insurance policy, how much would you have lost? The whole market was down over the year 38%. How much would you have lost? Somebody that's listening, type in the comments how much you think they would have lost. Let's see what you think. How much would you have lost if your money was inside this policy? How much would you have lost? Let me see an answer before I move on. How much would you have lost if the market was down 38%? What do you think? Going once? Going twice? No bad answers. 3, 0. You'd have lost 0. Okay? Because there's a built-in floor inside of this policy where you don't lose money. The second example, it went up 23%. How much would get credited to your account? Well, in this particular case, the cap on the policy I'm thinking about is 15%. So you wouldn't have got the whole 23%. You'd have got 15%. Well, Gus, that's kind of bad, isn't it? Well, the year before, you would have lost 38% and you lost 0. Oh boy. What if you had to go backwards 38% and then go frontwards 23%? You're still down 15%. But if you're at 0 and then you grow 15%, you're up 15%. Between the two scenarios, that's 30% better. See what I'm saying? Now, let's look at 2010. The market went what? Up 12%. How much would you get? You'd get the whole 12% in this scenario. So that's kind of how that works. Now, what are some benefits of being in this policy? 1, your money grows tax deferred. You don't pay money while it's growing. You don't pay interest on it. When you take it out, you're not taxed because of a certain tax rule. In most cases, the money that's inside the policy won't be counted against the FAFSA for your child. That's why this might be a place you want to consider putting your college retirement money, because it's not charged against the FAFSA if it's set up correctly. Also, in many states, you can avoid lawsuits by having your money inside an insurance product. Okay? So that's life insurance, either term or permanent. Another thing I'll say about, well, we're going to talk about the term insurance for a second. Let's do that. So, grow your money tax-free and risk-free. Take your money before 59 and a half, no tax penalty in the permanent insurance. It could actually help with your retirement. Take your money with zero taxes. Never lose money in the stock market. Save your market gains, meaning once you gain, you keep those gains. You don't lose them when the market goes negative. Grow money for your child's college without FAFSA impact. Okay. Now, with both term and permanent insurance, there's something called living benefits. Well, what's that? Well, everybody over 30 years, from whatever age you are now to 30 years from now, what's the likelihood that one of these things is going to happen to you? Heart attack, valve replacement, artery disease, stroke, cancer, kidney failure. It's a critical illness. It's not going to kill you, not right now, but it is going to maybe hamper your lifestyle in some way, or might shorten your lifespan. Okay? What about a chronic illness? ALS, Alzheimer's, arthritis, asthma, cancer, COPD, where you can't breathe, Crohn's, cystic fibrosis, all these kinds of things. What's the likelihood that in the next 30 years, yeah, there are many companies that offer term insurance to those over 70. It's just expensive. Okay, it's just expensive. So there are any number of companies that will do that. Okay, it's just a matter of their health situation and how much they need and what the budget is. And we'd be happy to help you find that. Okay, so if let's say you had one of these, let me just tell you a story. One of the people on my team, they had a relative who had 7 children with no life insurance. He finally convinced this person to get a $500,000 term policy. Make a long story short, the person contracted stage 4 cancer. Out of that $500,000 policy, they were able to get over $400,000 ahead of time. They end up living another 2-3 years ahead of time to help take care of the wife and the 7 children. Because the wife hadn't worked in a number of years because of the 7 children. Some they had through birth and some they adopted. So with that $400,000 plus, they were able to take care of their family during the time that he couldn't work anymore until he passed away. And now they're able to invest that money and to begin to generate a lifetime income from that. What if they wouldn't have gotten that term policy that they paid less than $75 a month for? Okay? And they had it for less than a couple of years. They were able to get $400,000 advanced to them to live on. It's called living benefits. So if you're buying life insurance today, ask, do you have living benefits? Because there's typically no real upcharge versus a basic term policy to get it. And if there is an upcharge, it's very minimal and it's worth it. Okay? So do you have the right amount and right kind of life insurance? That's huge. Okay? Also, long-term care. On your life insurance policy, you can have what's called a long-term care rider that take care of loved ones who need help bathing, dressing themselves, eating, transferring themselves from one place to another, going to the bathroom, or they have an incontinence issue, okay? Or they have a cognitive issue with remembering. because of Alzheimer's, that same policy could have long-term care benefits on it for the same, very similar price that you're paying for the life insurance. Okay? We're going to pick this up when we get together next week, and we're going to talk about scenario number 2, where your cash flow is equal to your expenses, and what are some tips for getting ahead of that one. Okay? So, hey, have a great weekend. We're out. But for a person with cash flow greater than their expenses, get your taxes in line. Make sure you're in line for retirement. Make sure you have the right amount and right kind of life insurance, and that you're taking care of college funding for your kids and long-term care. Those are typically the big issues for people. U.S. territory, yeah. Puerto Rico, yes. Most of the companies we deal with can deal with Puerto Rico. If they're flying a U.S. flag, we can usually help them, okay? So just get a hold of me at the Financial Freedom Friday. Here, I'll put the email address on here, or you can get a hold of me. Oh, went the wrong way. Let me get back the other way. Oh, come on. Wow. It's not going back to 1. Well, get a hold of me at financialfreedomfridays@gmail.com. Financialfreedomfridays@gmail.com. There it is. Financialfreedomfridays@gmail.com. Financialfreedomfridays@gmail.com. And send me your contact information. I'll get a hold of you. We'll get the specifics of your situation, and we'll find a solution. Okay? Financialfreedomfridays@gmail.com. And we'll talk to you next week about when your income is equal to your expenses, what are some strategies to deal with that. All right? Take care, guys. Bye-bye.